You're driving down the highway and you pass one of those massive pieces of machinery strapped to the back of a truck. And you probably have that quick thought, how in the world does that thing stay on there? Well, it looks pretty simple, but behind every single heavy haul is this fascinating hidden battle against some pretty serious laws of physics. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's focus on one specific and really common challenge, moving a heavy forklift. And I'm not talking about some little machine you see in a retail store. No. We're talking about a beast that can weigh up to 20,000 pounds. That's 10 tons of solid steel, complex hydraulics, and just dead weight. So how do you get that from point A to point B? Now, your first instinct might just be, we'll call a tow truck. But these things are not cars. Not at all. They have this really unique, compact shape, a super high center of gravity, and they definitely aren't built to be on public roads. Moving one of these requires a completely different playbook. So if your standard tow truck is out of the question, what is the right tool for the job? Well, it turns out you have a few specialized options, and each one is designed for a very specific purpose. You've got choices. You can go with a simple tow trailer if you're just making a quick local trip, or maybe you need the versatility of a tilt tray truck. For the really serious weight, you're going to need a flatbed, and for the biggest, heaviest, most demanding jobs, you bring in the heavy hitter, the automated tailgate truck, which is built for maximum safety and capacity. All right, so you pick your truck, you get the forklift loaded up, and you're good to go, right? Nope, not even close. In fact, picking the right vehicle, that's probably the simplest decision you're going to make. The real challenge, the part that separates the pros from the people who cause accidents, is everything that happens next. And this is where we get to the heart of it all. Moving a massive load like this isn't really about having strong ropes and chains. It's about conquering these immense, invisible forces. And these forces are so powerful, so important, that they are literally written into law. So in places like Australia, the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator sets what they call loading performance standards. And listen, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It is a rule book that is based entirely on physics. It defines the exact minimum forces that your tie-downs and chains have to be able to handle to be considered safe. And the numbers, they're honestly staggering. Think about it. When a truck slams on its brakes, that huge load wants to keep right on going forward. The law says your restraints have to be strong enough to hold back a force equal to 80% of the load's entire weight. For our 20,000-pound forklift, that is 16,000 pounds of force trying to launch it straight through the driver's cab. Now, what if you take a corner a little too fast, or just drive on a road that's banked? Well, that load wants to slide right off the side. The standards demand that your restraints can handle a sideways force equal to half the load's weight. That's 10,000 pounds trying to pull that forklift sideways into oncoming traffic. And you're not even safe when you're speeding up. Even when you accelerate, there are powerful forces trying to slide that machine off the back. Your system has to be able to withstand another 10,000 pounds of force just from hitting the gas. Now, this is what I find so fascinating because it just busts a huge myth. You'd think something that heavy would just stay put on its own, right? But the official guide is crystal clear. Weight is not a restraint. In fact, it's the opposite. The heavier the object is, the more violent the forces of inertia acting on it are. Gravity is not your friend here. Okay, so we've established we have these enormous forces trying to send our forklift flying in literally every direction. So the question becomes, how do you fight back? Well, it all comes down to the specific techniques that are used to tame these forces. Really, it boils down to two main strategies. The first is what's called tie-down restraint. That's all about creating a massive clamping force to generate friction, basically squeezing the load onto the truck bed. The second is direct restraint, which is more straightforward. You physically block the load from moving, or you attach it directly to the truck itself. And if you're using that tie-down method, friction is absolutely everything. This chart just illustrates perfectly how much the surface you're on matters. I mean, look at this. Wet or greasy steel on steel gives you almost zero friction. It's practically useless for holding anything down. But put that same piece of steel on a rubber load mat, and suddenly you have high friction, which makes your tie-downs way more effective. But it's not just about the surface, it's also about geometry. The angle of your straps is absolutely critical. A perfect 90-degree angle, straight up and down, gives you 100% of that strap's clamping power. That's the gold standard, the ideal scenario.
But watch what happens. As soon as you introduce an angle, you start losing that power. At just 60 degrees, you're already down to 85% effectiveness. You've just lost a pretty big chunk of your clamping force. Go down to 45 degrees, and the situation gets even worse. You've now lost 30% of your clamping power. That strap is having to work so much harder just to do less work.
And here it is, the crucial point. At a shallow 30-degree angle, that strap is only half as effective as it's designed to be. To get the same amount of restraint that you'd get at 90 degrees, you would literally need twice as many straps. This is exactly why getting the angles right isn't just a suggestion, it's non-negotiable for safety. So, you see, when you start combining the performance standards, the friction coefficients, and all these lashing angles, you realize this isn't just about tying some knots. This is applied physics in the real world. Getting it wrong is simply not an option, which is why understanding this science is what separates a true professional from everyone else. And that's exactly why professional heavy haulage companies build their entire reputation on this kind of expertise. When you see a company guarantee damage-free towing or advertise their experienced operators, that's not just marketing fluff. It's a promise that their team understands these invisible forces and has the training to control them safely 24/7. Ultimately, all of that knowledge and expertise translates into one thing for the customer: reliability. A hauler who has this whole process down to a science can work quickly and safely, avoiding the kind of expensive and frankly dangerous mistakes that come from just guessing. That peace of mind, knowing the job is done right, that's the real five-star service. And you have to remember, this specialized knowledge isn't just for forklifts. The exact same principles apply to moving excavators, bobcats, or any other piece of heavy, awkwardly shaped machinery. Each unique load requires a custom transport solution, often involving advanced flatbeds and a deep understanding of its specific center of gravity and how its weight is distributed. And really, that's the final takeaway, isn't it? When this job is done correctly, the entire process should look smooth and stress-free. But what you don't see is that underneath that calm exterior, there is a constant, carefully managed battle against incredible physical forces. That is the true mastery of the hidden physics of heavy hauling. So, in the end, safely moving this massive equipment isn't about brute force at all. It's more like a delicate dance with physics. It's about respecting the incredible forces that are always at play and engineering a precise solution to control them. So the next time you pass a truck on the highway, what unseen forces will you see at work?